that ominous glow in the distance? Max, look! Those idiots don't even know where we live! No!
Hey y'all, Tillian here. I just wanted to make a video pertaining to the MrPokke discussion. One, to make that intro video because I thought it was really funny, but two, because I wanted to drop my 2 cents into the conversation. I've watched the majority of the debates around the conversation at this point. I think the most people are missing kind of the greater conversation to be had here, and instead they're trying to either prove him incorrect or they're just trying to win a debate conversation just so they can kind of go back to their kind of corners and high-five their communities. Neither of those I find to be particularly interesting and or helpful to a conversation that I think we should have at greater lengths. So the statement in question is as follows, just quote, HSR has a power creep problem only if you allow it to happen, either by greed or stupidity. Change my mind. Now, this statement is obviously made to get some level of response. It's likely designed to get an emotional response, and it did. As content creators, we have to try to use our bag of tricks to kick off and kind of start the conversation sometimes. And I think this is specifically what he was trying to do in this case, and it worked. There was plenty of engagement. Maybe not the engagement he wanted, but plenty of engagement. Now, I don't particularly agree with calling everyone stupid or greedy because it seems particularly malicious and combative just to start a conversation with. But using synonyms doesn't really change the ultimate meaning of what he was trying to accomplish outside of just trying to make people's feelings feel a bit better. So while I personally wouldn't have gone and used such words, I think it's perfectly fine because, you know, whether or not you're using a word that's similar just to make somebody feel better is kind of irrelevant. There was obviously a lot of pushback to this statement. Putting all ownership of feeling power creep onto the player and kind of diffusing the responsibility away from a large faceless corporation who actually creates that situation to begin with, that players then have to navigate was kind of the consensus of why people didn't like what he had to say. Lots of people think it's unfair to blame the player for falling for the minefield of predatory practices that these games tend to employ, and rightfully so. These games are designed at their core to get you to become comfortable spending money, and eventually comfortable spending money regularly. These games are mass casinos and are very psychologically driven, and use all their tricks and all their tricks of the trade to entrap players. It's right to call these out as they can become dangerous and or treadmills to much larger gambling habits and addictions. My overall thoughts, though, on this entire discourse, if I had to summarize it, is I think MrPokke is right, but kind of. The statement I feel is true. I feel it, if you feel power creep to your account, it's likely the result of you either pulling for characters that you either didn't need at the time, weren't planning to invest into properly, or you weren't planning to build around them synergistically. If you're pulling just for the sake of pulling, either because you like the feeling of pulling, or you wanted to pull and collect your favorite characters, or you liked their trailer, it would fall into one of those categories described above. There's plenty of ways the player can navigate the game with older units to clear current content. There's either by investing in their previous teams to gain more power via eidolons or signatures, gaining more efficient and powerful relics, and or kind of maximizing the piloting capabilities of your teams versus the current content and what buffs are available to you. That being said, just because the statement may be true, it really doesn't matter. It's obvious that there is a significant negative feeling about HSR online currently in the gacha spaces. Whether that's a vocal minority or a larger casual audience, I find to be somewhat irrelevant. Whether this issue exists or doesn't due to the player's actions is kind of irrelevant. If a large enough group of people feel like their account is worse off, and they're losing perceived power, and constantly feeling like they're being pulled to the newest characters, they'll eventually get off the merry-go-round to something that they feel is more useful of their time. So even if MrPokke's statement is correct, it's not important in that moment to be correct. It's more important to find why do so many people feel negatively about the game currently, especially with a 3.0 expansion release in just a few days. That's the more important conversation to be had for me. But those are just kind of my thoughts. HSR is my first gacha game. I love it. I love turn-based combat games. They're some of my favorite games in the world, and I want to see it do well. It's just not fun listening to the negative discourse when we should be really hyped about new content. With all that being said, I've only been in the gacha space a really short time, and I fully expect to get roasted at the comments or if anyone reacts to this video, so feel free. I'm always happy to engage. But hey, I'm Tillian. These are just my thoughts on the MrPokke discussion. I think it's an important conversation to be had, and I think it's unfortunately kind of being missed due to the emotional conversation that's kind of being happening on the forefront. I hope you liked the video, and I hope I gave you something to think about. But remember, games are a conversation. Feel free to join that conversation down in the comments, and I'll try to engage with any and all of you as I can. But again, I'm Tillian. I'm a newish content creator. I enjoy discussing games and how we interact with them as a medium and how they interact with us. If you like my content, feel free to like, share, and subscribe it. It means the world to me. If you want to engage with me live and in person, I like to stream on Twitch occasionally too. I usually can be found on twitch.tv/TillianPlay on Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Come over there. We like to have a good time and just kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about at the moment. But yeah, that's about all I have to do tonight. That's all I have to say. But I'll catch you guys next time. Bye, y'all.